Good Saturday morning, everyone. I'm First Alert meteorologist Leah Murphy. Today is a First Alert weather day as we could be looking at potentially strong to severe thunderstorms as we push to the late afternoon and into the early evening. A lot of us right now are waking up to some steady rainfall as we head through the morning hours, as well as some patchy fog. Really no thunderstorms associated with this system as a warm front passes through our area. And then as we get through the rest of the day today, heading into the afternoon hours, we're going to see these temperatures start soaring out. Once that warm front passes, we'll even see some sunshine as we head into the afternoon as well. We'll see temperatures topping off in the 60s, and then we have that cold front coming through where we could be looking at some potentially strong to severe thunderstorms. Very, very low risk for an isolated tornado or some hail, but the risk is not zero. And then we are looking at some strong gusty winds as well as some heavy downpours possible. Behind that system, we turn much cooler and windier for your day on Sunday. Well, lots of sunshine, but temperatures will only get into the upper 40s. And then beyond that, we do have a pretty dry week to start, and then it becomes a little bit more unsettled and mild as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday with highs in the 60s. Let's check in with today's top headlines with Kristen. Good morning, Kristen.
Thank you. Good morning, Liam. I'm Krista Burnell, and here's your latest update from Western Mass News. Reaction continues to pour in after former President Donald Trump was indicted in New York this past Thursday. This marks the first time a former U.S. president faces criminal charges. The former president is reportedly facing more than 30 counts related to business fraud. The family of a Connecticut man who was shot and died from his injuries after an exchange of gunfire with police at the end of February is now speaking out about the case. The Hampton District Attorney's Office tells Western Mass News the investigation remains ongoing, but they say it all started with reports that Tisdale was possibly armed with a gun, acting aggressive towards people inside MGM Springfield. Troopers from the State Police Gaming Enforcement Unit at the casino tried to locate him as he left. A true sign that we are returning to a pre-COVID-19 world. Yesterday, the AMR response team at the COVID-19 testing site at the Eastville Mall packed their bags for the final time.